The state government is involved in safeguarding the environment and enhancing the quality of protected areas through various means. These include restoration of degraded areas, gazetting new forest reserve, and establishing connectivity to existing protected areas. We will also do our level best to ensure that enabling conditions are in place to realize sustainable forest management and to bring the associated conservation financing initiative into fruition.
Conservation of natural resources, including forests, wildlife, water, clean air, and whatever life forms on land, rivers, or sea, is not an option. It is a must. That's why the state of Sabah in Malaysia is taking great strides in this direction. It is, in fact, a trailblazer in conservation efforts. This is because conservation is a deliberate policy direction. It is certainly not by chance, but by design. For good reason too, for this state that lies on Borneo Island is blessed with the world's most biologically rich and diverse forest ecosystems. The Sabah state government is constantly alert to the need to formulate and adopt sound conservation policies and plans that would bring long-term benefits not only for the state of Sabah, the country of Malaysia, but the entire Earth. Protection and preservation has come in various forms, such as forest reserves, land and marine parks, special conservation areas, and buffer zones for these protected areas. The prime conservation concern today is to have measures of sustainable development based on patterns of production and consumption that can be pursued into the future without further degrading the natural environment. The Sabah Foundation, for instance, through its holding and management company, Enterprise Corporation Sendirian Berhad, is a pioneer in the restoration of damaged forest areas in Sabah. At the same time, the Sabah Foundation is working in collaboration with a number of other renowned international organizations in its conservation areas. These include the Royal Society of the United Kingdom, the IKEA of Sweden, the Danish Corporation for Environment and Development, or DANIDA, and a French organization known as Sirat Forêt.
We entered into a joint venture with the Forest Absorbing Carbon Emission Foundation of the Netherlands way back in 1993. It is now called Face the Future or INPAPRO project. In fact, it was one of the world's earliest initiatives to restore damaged tropical rainforests through a carbon project. The intention is to boost carbon dioxide capture during the forest regeneration process. This pioneering project has provided valuable lessons that can be applied to other rainforest restorations programs. Through this project, we have contributed towards the upward growth of forest canopy structure on areas in Sabah, previously classified as degraded forests.
The Sabah state government deliberately adopted policies and plans that were initiated to gear the entire state towards sustainable forest management. The implementation of such plans reflects the strong political will and firm commitment of the Sabah state government on conservation, with the full backing of national leaders.
We have been able to achieve this level of conservation and the progress that we have made here in Sabah simply because there has been tremendous support at the highest level of the political echelon. It started with the visit of the former Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, to Dramakut in 1997, whereby, amongst other things, his advice was to multiply the concept of Dramakut. We reinforced this political support with the visit of another Prime Minister, which is Tun Ahmad Badawi to Dramakot again in 2006, whereby he himself experienced the many facets of sustainable forest management as they should be practiced. And not forgetting, we have been able to achieve so many pluses here in Sabah, particularly in the increase of totally protected areas, in the multiplication of sustainable forest management, simply because over the past 8 years, we have been given great support by the government of Sabah, headed by the Chief Minister, Dr. Musa Haji Aman, and his cabinet. And through their support, we've been getting the resources that are required in order to implement sustainable forest management and conservation throughout the state. I'm hopeful this political support will continue and we will make progress from now and in time to come.
For Sabah, the plan is to ensure that this sustainability is environmentally and socially acceptable and at the same time economically viable. The state has found the Dramakot Forest Reserve as a model, acting as a flagship, an institutional commitment that is in tune with world standards. The Dramakot Forest Reserve spreads over 55,000 hectares, and the plan was developed over 5 years from 1989 to 1994. This was initially done with technical support of the German Agency for Technical Cooperation, known in short as GTZ. With this institutional forest management model firmly in place, the Sabah state government made a bold move in 1997 to apply its practice and principles of management to other areas in the state.
The government of Sabah continues to support the concept of Dramakot and has given all the resources needed via the Forestry Department to further sustain its activities. It should also be noted that Dramakot is also a success story because despite harvesting, orang-utan still thrive in the area because the forest is well managed by adhering to sound logging practices such as rail or reduced impact logging.
Learning from mistakes of the past, the government has imposed a new method of logging based on selective felling and retention of adequate residual stocking for subsequent cutting cycles to ensure sustainable forest management practices. It is known as the Reduced Impact Logging, or RIL. The RIL system results in low level of damage to residual stock, soil and water, so that the productive capacity of the forest after logging is sustained. The Sabah Forestry Department has made it mandatory that all forest reserves in the state be placed under this manner of timber harvesting starting in 2010. These are among the many policy directions of the Sabah state government that are a true reflection of good governance and seriousness in conservation of the state's natural resources. Among legislative actions that reflect strong political will on conservation is the Sabah Biodiversity Enactment that was passed in 2000. This paved the way for the establishment of a Biodiversity Council to advise the state government of Sabah on matters related to conservation and sustainable use of biological resources. Another legislative action towards this end was the Sabah Water Resources Enactment in 1998. It was an important step towards integrated river basin management that takes into account all factors linked to the resources, including social and economic activities. It was also by way of legislative action that the Danum Valley and the Malayao Basin became protected areas in 1995 and 1997 respectively. The great majority of land and sea areas important for the conservation of forests, wild and marine life are managed by a specific government authority. Most of such areas legislated come under either the Forest Enactment of 1968, the Sabah Parks Enactment of 1984, the Wildlife Conservation Enactment of 1997, or the Land Ordinance. The Sabah Forestry Department is the most significant land manager in terms of land area, forest cover, terrestrial biodiversity, and conservation of endangered wildlife. This department protects and manages all the state's forest reserves, of which there are 7 categories in over 3.6 million hectares, equivalent to nearly 49% of Sabah's land mass. The forest land area managed by the Sabah Parks is more than 245,000 hectares, representing 3.3% of Sabah's land, including some on islands. The passing of the Sabah Parks enactment in 1984 resulted in the opening of the Turtle Islands Park, the Pulau Tiga Park, and the Tawau Hills Park. Other parks include the Kinabalu Park, the Tunku Abdul Rahman Marine Park, and the Crocker Range Park, that is a forest-covered mountain range that stretches in a southwesterly direction.
Sabah Park has the heavy responsibility to ensure that our conservation management produces results. This is because of the vast array of plant species in our parks that are unique, rare, and of great significance. For instance, the world-famous Kinabalu sleeper orchid, the Raja Brook pitcher plant, and the mysterious rafflesia, the largest flower in the world. These are but a tiny fraction of our priceless floral heritage that we are tasked to protect and conserve.
Similarly, the magnificent Maliau Basin with a giant saucer-shaped depression is another major conservation area in Sabah. It is rightly known to many as the Lost World. One of the many wonders of the Maliau Basin is the 7-tier waterfalls that is the origin of the water protection zone for the upper region of the Kinabatangan River. This river is the largest and longest waterway in Sabah. Its total water catchment size is about a quarter of the state's entire area. The scope of conservation is truly vast. A vital aspect is the ability to keep areas such as parks and watershed protection forests in pristine condition in order to preserve our natural biological populations, communities, and our landscape. One person who understands this very well is Tunku Datuk Dr. Zainal Adlin, the president of WWF Malaysia, as well as the chairman of the Sabah Tourism Board. He has joined many past expeditions to discover hidden treasures within Sabah's conservation areas.
Sabah, the land below the wind in Malaysian Borneo, is blessed because it is in the heart of mega biodiversity of the Indo-Pacific Basin and Malaysia, with WWF states that in terms of per unit area, both land and sea, in terms of mega biodiversity, is unmatched in the world. For example, it's the apex of the Coral Triangle, which is the marine epicenter of the whole entire world, whereby is where is the cradle of coral evolution, with over 75% of marine species known to science is in the Coral Triangle. Is where Sabah is the apex. That is by the sea, which is the marine epicenter of the entire world. But on land, the initiative by WWF is to have 3 countries, 1 conservation region, and of course 1 ecotourism region as well, of Malaysia, Brunei, and Indonesia, where to combine together contiguous 23 national parks of 220,000 square kilometers under national forest management, and in this context is the biggest in the world. Sabah again is the best of the heart of Borneo, and we should be all very, very proud of this and know all the reasons why to conserve.
Conservation plans for Sabah is thorough and widespread, from mountaintops to rivers, islands, and the seas. Such plans include the fisheries stocks management and the maintenance of marine environmental quality. The Sabah Fisheries Department is guided by the policy to conserve and have judicious utilization of fisheries and marine living resources in the state.
We have to bear in mind that the exploitation of the marine living resources is of major economic importance to not only Sabah, but Malaysia as a whole. Our research on fisheries and marine living resources is directed towards having a better understanding of the marine environment and the nature of our marine biological resources. By doing so, we can formulate policies and plans that bring about a harmonious application of our marine ecosystems and biodiversity for human welfare now and for generations to come.
Another government agency engaged in conservation is the Sabah Wildlife Department, established in 1988. It is currently managing wild animals throughout the state, along with 26,000 hectares within the wildlife sanctuary in the lower region of the Kinabatangan. Contrary to earlier belief, field surveys have shown that there is a large concentration of orangutans, elephants, and the oriental darters in these lower Kinabatangan areas that were heavily logged previously. Since the late 1990s, the Forestry Department has actively supported a host of natural regeneration and forest plantation programs in this Kinabatangan floodplain. The Sabah Forestry Department has made recommendations to the Sabah state government on many occasions, resulting in a number of very significant amendments to the forestry legislation being passed. These legislative actions determined the main elements of the pattern of forest reserves and terrestrial parks that exist in Sabah today. Such policy directions have contributed towards the success of government authorities in conservation of wildlife, the regeneration of degraded habitats, as well as achieving connectivity of the ecosystems. However, a member of the state government responsible for the protection of the environment in Sabah believes that laws alone are not going to solve the problem arising from conservation and preservation.
I totally agree. Laws alone is insufficient. Human, raised by nature, like to break law. Basically, the reason why we are having these problems in the world is because people like to break law, even the law of God. The biggest challenge of the human race today when we talk about conservation is really managing human greed. See, unfortunately for us, there are people who feel that they should take everything now and leave nothing for the future generations. But I want to say to all of you that perhaps we need to sit down and think again that conservation must be seen as a responsibility of the human race, a responsibility for you and me, for everyone. That if we don't look after our world today, if we don't conserve, then there's nothing for us to leave to the next generations.
The government, therefore, recognizes the urgent need to engage the local communities and the public at large to be fully aware of environmental protection and conservation. As a matter of policy and practice, various government departments which are actively engaged in conservation work carry out a wide range of educational projects and programs throughout the year, either jointly or separately. The Environmental Protection Department and many other government bodies, like the Department of Environment, are actively addressing environmental challenges such as littering, water and air pollution, and the degradation of biodiversity as a whole. In 2005, the Sabah Environmental Education Network was set up to create synergy among various organizations in order to build strong cooperation and coordination among implementation agents. This organization provides effective network among public and private bodies engaged in environmental education and enables the sharing of expertise, information, and other resources in carrying out activities in Sabah. The Sabah Forestry Department manages the Rainforest Discovery Center, established in 1996 with the objective of enhancing public awareness on the uniqueness and importance of forests in Sabah. The main goal of programs at the Rainforest Discovery Center is to bring about positive change in the attitudes and behaviors of the public towards forests and the environment as a whole.
It's crucial for the state government to be able to demonstrate to the public the benefits of conservation and to drive home the message that protection of our resources in a sustainable way can be lucrative if we are willing to take a few extra steps. However, I must stress here that we will always be mindful of environment consideration in line with our aim to achieve sustainable development.
Conservationists do agree that there is probably no other location in Asia that has such a diversity of natural and wild areas within a single state than what's found in Sabah. There is, for instance, the Great Apes Survival Partnership Project at the Ulu Sugama and Malawa Enclave in the Lahad Datu district of Sabah. It has been acclaimed as one of the most outstanding United Nations environment-related programs in the world for the conservation and protection of natural habitats for orangutans. Now, climate change is beginning to bring massive changes to the landscape. Long droughts that occur from time to time bring serious threats. Indeed, the threats are real. The challenges are many. The way forward for the state of Sabah is to ensure that the sound and comprehensive law and order that governs conservation is known, better understood, respected, and strictly adhered to by all concerned. The primary objective of this documentary film is precisely to ensure that this ideal of a happy coexistence of the human race with wildlife, nature, and plants becomes a way of life for all in Sabah and elsewhere on the earth.